Hi, hello. I'm Beckwin. For those who don't know, I am a content writer for Heroes Hearth, and today I'm with KendricSwissh,
What's
the
up,
the man who
guys?
knows everything about Warcraft 3. How are you, Kendric? How's it going?
I'm doing very well, Beckwin. Actually, the first time we met in person, but we've been
I was,
following
yeah, I
each
was
other
gonna
on
say
social media for quite some time, right? So,
you've been in the. I know you were in HOTS for a little bit, and
yeah.
then you kind of like have danced back and forth between HOTS and Warcraft 3.
hmm
Yeah. I don't think we've ever had like an actual interaction with each other until this.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, but here we are.
This time it's
So
actually me who's getting questions asked. Normally on this channel on
yeah.
Heroes of Warcraft 3, I'm the guy who's always, launching the interview. So it feels good to be on the other side of the bench this time.
Yeah, things are a little backwards. It's actually my first interview that I've ever really done, so we'll
Noise.
see what happens. But I do want to just like kind of dive right into it because this last week has been pretty big for Blizzard.
hmm
Um, whether that's good or bad, we'll figure that out. But Reforged, Warcraft 3 Reforged launched last week, and
True.
you're someone who's dedicated a lot of his time, energy, and just kind of a big chunk of your life to Warcraft 3. So, what are your first impressions of Reforged?
So I got this question a lot on my stream, and I'm pretty sure everyone who's been through streaming any Warcraft 3 before this week, they probably were asked this question a lot. What do you think? Is it really as bad as some of the critics make it? Is it
Mhm.
is it really a messed up game? Did Blizzard really fail again? And I would say yes and no. So
Right.
long story short, if you're in for a single player experience and you're just coming in for the campaign, maybe you want to play a custom game, with friends like Tower Defense, or you want to play some Uther Party, whatever. I think
Yeah,
then
I
the
love it
game
to
is
party.
yeah, best mode, man. Then the game is definitely playable and ready to go.
Mhm.
True, they did violate some of the promises they made, like the cinematic cutscenes, but it's still
That was
playable.
huge. Yeah.
That was actually a
Yeah.
thing that a lot of people really wanted to have because it made the game look totally different.
Well, also I remember, especially, I know at the 2018 BlizzCon tech demo they had, that was like the first obviously impression that anyone had. Whereas there, Arthas, Uther, Jaina walking into Stratholme, it's this
hmm
whole different look. And then what we got, while it's the visual upgrade, it's not that like
Yeah.
at all, and it's disheartening. And then the other side of things was we were going to have that's like 4 hours of new cinematic, like just new cinematics for
hmm
Reforged, and we also didn't get that.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of things they said that they. I feel like they really want to do all those things, and I don't know if it's a time thing or a resource thing. I really don't know, but like it sucks that we didn't. Like Warcraft 3 came out in what, 2002. It was a huge part of like my childhood, like my
Yeah.
gaming experience. So like to wait for this long and then to just not get what we kind of wanted, it sucks.
Yeah, that's true. And I totally understand anyone who's disappointed and who's not happy, or who might, because of these reasons, might not even buy the game, totally fine, in my
Mhm.
opinion. So, back to what I was saying earlier, single player and custom games, totally fine and playable. Disappointing, but playable. No bugs, or very few bugs, it still looks good, it feels good. But if you're into multiplayer, if you're a competitive guy who wants to have laddering, who wants to have, 101s, 2v2s, all the good stuff
Mhm.
that you as a upcoming competitive player want to practice in, that's just not there. You have
Right.
matchmaking, basic matchmaking, that's there. That was confirmed recently by a dev, but you don't have a ladder system yet. You don't have a profile yet, where you can gather your information like wins, losses.
Yeah, that seems so strange, right? Because that was obviously was in
Yeah,
the classic version, and there's so many features that just seem just gone. And I
yeah.
understand a lot of that is due to the transition from the old BNet client
hmm
to the new. But even things like clans, like they still could have made clans work. Like clans
Yes.
exist in Diablo 3, and those are gone.
They
So yeah, it just
exist in
seems like a
StarCraft
lot of
2 as
strange
well,
features.
which, by the way,
Right.
this client, like in Heroes of a Storm, is all based on the StarCraft 2 client. So you have very
Mhm.
similar chat windows, very similar functions in general. So I hope they're going to have that. The tap clans is already in the game, and when you hover over it, it says coming soon. So
Okay,
I
so
would assume that's one of the big things. So yeah, man, if you're a multiplayer player, it's just not there. And I can totally understand when
right.
you're like, okay, I'm going to wait a month or two until the game is actually in that stage where I want it to be or where I can expect it to be. So, long story short, single player custom games, I think you can definitely play it. Even now, if you're only in for the multiplayer, if you're only in for competitive 101, then just wait.
Right. So it's unfortunate that like I think this is the state that we got.
Yeah, man.
I know you've been kind of playing through the campaign, like all the campaigns on your stream. How have you been just enjoying that? Just like the visual upgrades and everything.
So there's still a couple of things, where at first you're like, oh man, I need to get used to that new looks. But
Right.
honestly, if you're truly honest, you can say the campaign looks bad. The units,
Right.
animations are pretty cool. Some of the new units or the new heroes look badass. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Orcish heroes and the Orcish units. They just look so damn good. Grommash Hellscream, when he turns full demon, freaking fantastic. There is still, unfortunately, a couple of effects that are not yet finished. For example, the infamous Cyclone, when you get tossed up in the air.
Yeah.
It just looks like your units are just chilling and rotating like on a display case, like very slowly. And the animation is clearly not finished yet. There's a couple of those. The Blade Storm as well by the Blade Master is not fully animated yet. So these things will make you break out of your immersion and be like, oh man, really? But I would say 90% of the campaigns is just freaking gorgeous and looks good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, I wasn't very much in the. I don't really play Warcraft 3 the intended way of like 1v1, 2v2, whatever. I was definitely about just I love the story,
Yeah.
and I think for a lot of people, the story of Warcraft 3 basically made World of Warcraft like for so many people because they went from one to the other.
Yeah.
And just the story of Arthas, Illidan, like that was fantastic for me. So even though we didn't exactly get the the story changes they said they were going to do, the cinematic changes, everything like that, it's still to me just a great visual experience, and I'm okay in that regard. Like I like seeing the updated models and everything, and the maps. Like I think that's great. And then
you can sort of tell sometimes where they want it to go. Like in some of the missions, you will actually see a changed map, different layout, and some other things that weren't in the original campaigns. So in the Culling of Stratholme, for example, they restructured the entire map and what it looks like to actually match the Stratholme of World of Warcraft more. So you can
cool.
actually see where they were going for, and if only they had more time, then I think they could have truly made everything as epic as they wanted to be.
Right, and that's what makes me wonder is obviously 2018 is when we first saw anything. So I'm wondering what exactly the timeline was of, this is what we want to do, and like when do they actually start doing those things? Because even if the tech demo alone back then, it looked and felt really great. So it's strange to see sort of the decline from that to what we have now. And it's not like it's unplayable or bad. Obviously, people have a lot of issues with it, which are understandable.
Yeah.
But like you said, I mean, single player custom game, the game is still relatively playable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just I thought about this a lot over the last couple of days, and I really try to, like, as a content creator, I can't be as outraged and I can't be as vocal as some people are, the Metacritic score. Or,
yeah.
And that's just not who I am.
Actually, what is the Metacritic right now? Because it's been going down.
It's pretty bad.
Frequently.
I think.
I think I looked yesterday. Okay, it's 0.5. I think that is. I read that's the lowest user score.
I think it's
ever
officially at the rock bottom right now.
And what sucks about that is it doesn't only just hurt Warcraft 3. It doesn't only just hurt that brand.
Yes.
It damages the trust just across the board. And obviously, I mean, you have history with Heroes of the Storm. HGC, the competitive scene for that died, and then Blizzard laid off a bunch of people, and now this. So it's basically just been Blizzard's been having a very tough time these last 2 years. And it sucks because it affects everything across the board.
Yes, and don't get me wrong, man. When I try to jump into the breach a little bit for Blizzard, I'm not trying to defend them, and I'm not trying to basically cleanse them of all the guilt and all the failures. They clearly brought this upon themselves, and they've been doing it for years and by now. But I think it's just
slow decline.
Exactly, absolutely. But on Metacritic and other similar review platforms, you have that for several games, not just Reforged, where sometimes people will just downvote something or write negative reviews just because they don't like it or they're personally frustrated. Like, look at consoles, for example, right? On Metacritic, you have certain console exclusives, and then players from the other console will just write a bad review to make it down. PlayStation.
It's just a trend.
It's just a trend, yeah. But really, like you mentioned it, right? You mentioned the decline of Blizzard and the recent failures, and I think for Reforged, it's just a tragedy, really. The mistake they made at 2018 BlizzCon was they announced a release date. They should have never done that. I think they were forced to do that.
It was delayed too. Like that's the thing. The game was also delayed on top of that, which is crazy.
They had to, and I think they were forced kind of into this situation because remember, you probably remember this as well. Back when 2018 was the worst BlizzCon ever, right? It was Diablo Immortal. It was when people actually booed on stage. They were so upset, and online, of course, the repercussions. We all were reminded that we had phones. It was not good. So I think what Blizzard tried to do there was Reforged announcement was good. It was kind of like they brought back some of the older glory with Warcraft 3, and they needed some good press, and I think they wanted to appease some of the people they had angered. So they announced Warcraft 3 and Forged, and not just that, they announced a release time already to be like, yo, guys, here's something nice.
Now the hype is coming. Get ready.
Exactly.
Like, here it is.
Not all is bad, but the problem was at that time they probably already knew if all the things we wanted to do with cinematic cutscenes, reworked missions and altered missions and stuff like that, we're never going to make it in time.
Right.
So, and that was the big downfall. If they had never announced a release time and had just taken their time, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, the game would have been almost perfect, I guess, at release. But because of 2018 and that terrible time, they were forced into this rash decision of announcing a release time, and now it really bit them back.
Yeah, I think that definitely hurt them more than anything. Because like you said, there's just no way they could have lived up to everything they wanted to do.
Yes.
And I read one of the big reasons that the game... one of the main complaints I've heard about the game is that it's a Blizzard game that doesn't feel like a Blizzard game. It just doesn't visually feel like one. And apparently a big reason for that is because the animations and whatnot were outsourced to a Malaysian studio.
Yeah.
And I believe it's called Lemon Sky. And I also believe they did StarCraft Remastered, which is very strange because everything I've heard about StarCraft Remastered is it went pretty well. Like the launch for that was overall pretty well received. And so it's crazy that the Warcraft 3 Reforged, same studio, is basically the opposite end of the spectrum. And Lemon Sky has worked on a lot of like AAA titles. And I remember seeing the Arthas Illidan fight is one of the like hallmarks of Warcraft
That's
lore.
The most iconic moment, or one of the most iconic moments.
Without a doubt, yeah. And seeing the like original Warcraft 3 is like, of 2002, 2003, whatever. Like for the time, it was bad, but it was great. Like they ran out of budget, and now seeing the updated version of it is like it's visually better, but still bad, and like that sucks to say.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I just feel like everyone involved was just rushed to the point where it wasn't a product that could possibly deliver. Lemon Sky was rushed, Blizzard was rushed. It was just
I think so, yeah.
And I don't know what the chain of command, like obviously, the higher ups are probably like, you guys got to get this out. Like you've had time, you've had like a year and a half, whatever. Like it's time. And I do wonder what the game would have looked like had they released it in I think December was like the original date, right?
Oh man, dude, I think it would have been in beta status, and the beta was not good for Reforged. And that was the thing, right? They released the beta, or they made a beta, and already in the beta, people could tell this just doesn't feel right. This is not even this should be an alpha, That's actually what most people thought. This is technical alpha at the very best. I don't know what it is about them rushing things lately, not just in terms of game releases, but also in terms of other big decisions they made. I mean, you were invested into Heroes of a Storm, I was, and that whole HEC esports, massacre that they really produced. It felt so rushed, didn't it? It was like a couple of days,
came out of nowhere, like,
and then boom, 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 everything is gone. Instead of a more step-by-step decline where they were like, okay, we're going to do 1 year, but then it's definitely gone, and we're going to have less budget. We're going to basically pull everything off, but at least we have another year and people can find another prospect for their future. Instead they were just like
That,
chopping it off.
yeah, and that was the crazy thing. It was like basically BlizzCon ended, and
Hmm.
then like a month later, it was like 2 weeks before Christmas. They were like, "Hey guys, like, by the way, all your jobs are gone," and
Yeah.
everyone was just like, "Holy shit! Like, what do we do
Yeah.
now?" So it's definitely been, yeah, Blizzard has been, like I said, it's been a very slow decline. They've been slowly just bleeding out, their fan base, and it
Hmm.
sucks. Even recently with World of Warcraft, they released the new raid tier,
Yeah.
and with that came a new cinematic, and people were not pleased with that cinematic. It just felt very rushed, very flat,
Hmm.
and it it sucks seeing a brand that historically can do better because they have,
Yes.
and now you're just sort of like I can rag on Heroes of the Storm all day. Like you get me started, all
Yeah.
right, but I still play the game every day because I love the game. And I'm sure
Yeah.
this it's the same as with you in Warcraft 3. Like you might hate a lot of things about Reforged, but
Hmm.
you love Warcraft 3. You know what it can be.
Absolutely.
And I think like yeah, there's definitely a lot of outrage right now, and it's certainly justified. Like
There's got to be
what we got,
someone or something within the company, and I'm not just talking about Blizzard here, but I think Activision,
right?
especially
The whole bubble,
the whole conglomerate. There's got to be someone or something like really pushing the pedal to the metal for no reason, or
mm.
whatever reason they might have. We do not know or we do not understand. But they
it's,
really
it's
need
not
to.
working. Like whatever it is, it's just not working.
It's not working. It's causing more damage than it could possibly save. I don't know if they're trying to save money, if they're trying to please certain shareholders or whatever, but it's not the way how you do it, in my opinion. And even, with some of the Blizzard legends gone, like Mike Morhaime,
Mm.
um, you know, even even now, there's enough capable people left, I would say, to know that this is not a good approach. So there's got to
Right.
be someone external causing all this pressure and causing all this nonsense.
Right. And that's the crazy thing too, is like I feel like just on Twitter, it's like every other week I see a Blizzard employee that's just leaving the company.
Hmm.
And like it's insane. Like and you read about it that Blizzard has sort of become like this almost stepping stone company in the game world. Where it's like you go to Blizzard and from there you just go wherever you want.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's definitely never it was never always like that. And
It's
I
never
and I
been
want
this
them
visible, at least.
right, right. And I want them to return to that glory days, like Wrath of the Lich King, Burning Crusade, even Legion for World of Warcraft, and then like
Hmm.
StarCraft 2 was great.
Yeah.
Heroes of the Storm, despite its issues, was legitimately a great game, like for what it was.
Yeah.
And they sort of just they've lost their mojo. They've lost like their spark,
Yeah.
and it sucks. It really sucks to see kind of like just sort of I don't want to say die out. Like Blizzard's obviously not going to go anywhere, but I think they definitely have a lot to do to sort of earn back the trust of the community.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a very big uphill battle for them.
I think what you say is totally right. I think
Mm.
I would go even one step further, and I would say, um, not just Blizzard needs to have a rebirth of some sort. Where they come back. Where they find their ways back into their former glory. But
Mhm.
also, sort of the community needs to sort of be reborn, because even to this point, we're only used to seeing like godlike releases of Blizzard.
Right.
We've been spoiled over all those years with the highest quality, with some of the best games ever made, no matter where you look. And I think we also have to maybe lower our expectations a little bit, and also remind ourselves not to freak out about everything, and go on this crazy rage, on this public rage, where you just try to burn
Yeah.
everything, and you try to unite yourself with these other people into a mob. It always reminds me of this herd mob mentality where people are just bashing for bashing's sake. And I think if
Yeah. It
we as a
seems like
community
people,
do
people are just
that,
mad to be mad.
yeah, exactly. Just being mad for the sake of being mad. And if we sort of manage to kind of, put our expectations a little bit lower, and maybe tell ourselves not to freak out about everything they do, and then Blizzard tries to deliver a little bit harder, they try a little bit harder to deliver, then I think we can sort of have this rebirth of the beautiful universes that we still have from Blizzard. And I think the big
Mhm.
breaking point, really, where we can see if that is ever going to happen again, is Diablo 4.
I was just going to say, I feel like
Yeah.
Diablo 4 is going to be the next, telling point of
Yeah, that's the make or
can
break, in
Blizzard
my
be
opinion.
redeemed?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we don't have a release date for that yet,
Hmm.
but that's probably for the best, considering what happened with
Yeah.
Reforged. I'll wait until 2022, Blizzard. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to talk about really quickly is we did mention custom games and everything, and there was a change to their user licensing agreement where basically if you make it in the map editor, Blizzard owns it, like completely. And I can't help but feel this is in a way to prevent another Dota situation where Dota
Absolutely,
became
man.
so big, it overshadowed Warcraft 3.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, look at Dota now. Like, holy shit! Like, it's
Yeah.
massive. It spawned an entire, like, Heroes of the Storm would not exist without, League of Legends would not exist without Dota. Like, it's insane. The problem with that is people aren't going to want to make anything in the map editor now.
Yeah.
So it's this double-edged sword where it's like, I understand from a business standpoint why they're doing it.
Yeah.
But it sucks. And with that, they're also taking away a lot of. I mean, I have a DBZ shirt on right now, and the reason I mention that is because a lot of the copyrighted material that were a part of maps, like you could play DBZ maps, just like
Naruto,
Cartoon Network maps.
Yeah,
like
you had
whatever.
everything.
Yeah, they're gone. Like they're going to be gone now. And that, like, I could play a custom game and experience the entire 40 seasons of Dragon Ball Z in Warcraft 3, and that's gone now, and that sucks. And I don't know. I don't think this is necessary. I think they need to kind of wipe that away and let people be creative. Let people just do what they want.
And that's the thing, right? That's something that once again cuts into the community. If there's one thing for Blizzard right now, the big, in big red letters, it should be don't mess with the community even more.
It's the most important, regardless of the state of the games. Like they could make them the worst games. The community has always been like the staple of Blizzard games. They've made the games what they are. And it's like you can't.
And they've messed with that so much, and like you said, and if they could still always control the situation like that. Let's face it, the problem of Dota back then was not the fact that they didn't have this regulation that they have right now. The problem was that they just failed to analyze the trend. They just failed to really get the situation under control and be like, yo, this is the thing we need to invest into. And and IceFrog and the other people who made Dota, they tried. It's not like they never tried to talk to Blizzard. It's just that Blizzard didn't want to pay the money.
They didn't care, yeah. And now look at IceFrog now. He went to Valve. Valve was like, yo, you do whatever you want. We'll give you infinite resource. And he was just like, all right, like whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, same as League of Legends, like Ginsu, Yule, or like all those guys. They basically built Riot, and then it's like one of the most successful companies to ever exist.
The student overtakes the master,
Exactly. And now Blizzard's like, and then we got Heroes of the Storm. Like, even that came, like a decade later. And I think that in general is Blizzard's whole thing. Is like they're always late to the party.
Yes.
And I don't know how,
except for MMOs, maybe.
Yeah, like maybe MMOs. We had obviously EverQuest and all those, and then WoW was just like, we're gonna take those and we're gonna make them better, and they did. It's just everything else is like, Overwatch came. They're trying to reinvent the wheel when it doesn't need to be reinvented.
Yeah,
just take it and just improve what you have. Polish it up. Yes, I don't. Like Blizzard's in a very tough spot.
They're in a tough spot, but I think like I said earlier, I think it's an interesting stage to be it's an interesting time to be a Blizzard fan. And I think despite a lot of people being very vocal, and trashing Reforged and trashing Blizzard, rightfully so if you're doing it in moderation and if you do it at the right sources, I think it's an interesting time to be a Blizzard fan, to see if they can sort of bounce back, from all the losses they've taken, and maybe capitalize on future mistakes by their competitors. Because I always think about this. You brought up Riot, and they're expanding like crazy right now. They're announcing fighting games. They're announcing a shooter. They're announcing a new card game. Or Runeterra is basically here now already.
Right. So I played it the other day. Like it's a game. It's a fun game.
But can Riot, can they also juggle all the balls? You know what I mean? Like, can they maintain this many games and all keep them equally great? Or are they going to be like Blizzard at some point, where maybe they just have too many great games and they can't sustain them all? They can't maintain them all.
And I think that's an interesting thing to think about, because like Blizzard has done so many things all at one time, and like Riot has only done like, hey guys, we have League of Legends.
Exactly.
Like that's it.
So
I mean,
yeah,
yeah,
can maybe
it'll
Blizzard
be
capitalize
interesting.
on some mistakes in the future? Nobody's unattackable, nobody's invincible. I mean,
Right.
Valve certainly isn't. They have had a couple of hiccups in the past too, with Artifact and other titles, and people got mad about that
Poor
as well.
Artifact.
Yeah, I mean,
Artifact. I remember that. I remember it pops up on the screen.
yeah.
Everyone's like, "Oh, it's like Dota," and then it's like card game, and everyone, you just hear the disappointment. Everyone's just like,
Mm.
"Oh God, poor
That's
Artifact."
maybe something else to think about as well. Like, is Reforged as bad as Artifact? Who knows?
Yeah, like it's crazy to think that like the answer is probably no. Like
Mm.
Artifact was like Reforged is bad, but like Artifact was just like, ooh, I don't know about this one,
Yeah.
Valve.
Yeah, so yeah, future is exciting nonetheless. It may sound crazy right now with all the negativity looming around, but um, still, especially now, viewership on Twitch is not bad for Reforged. A lot of people are
Hmm.
still on the hype. They want to see the campaign. They want to see esports right now. On the weekend we had some crazy cups, 3 cups in a row, actually, all done by Back to Warcraft, and they recently reported on Twitter that their viewership was crazy high. Because of the release week and everything. So I think the demand is still
Yeah,
there, and I'm waiting for the
absolutely.
first major Reforged tournament to go down at the end of February in Anaheim. So let's see what the future holds, man. Warcraft 3 has been around for such a long time. I don't
Yeah.
think its community is just going to die off and be wiped out with this meteor of Reforged. I think it's going to be there for a good amount of time still.
Yeah, I think regardless of the fact that like even if Blizzard didn't deliver on some of the things, yeah, like you said, the community is just not going anywhere. Like they've
Mm,
been playing the same game since 2002. It's like they know what they're in for, kind of thing. Like
yeah.
they're just gonna play the game because they love the game. But yeah, no, I think I saw Grubby. He had like 9K viewers
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
other
Yeah. Yeah.
night, and like it's crazy. Even Fight Night, you guys had like 4K ish
We
viewers.
had, I think, more than half of the viewership that we did on a normal episode. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
more than
And
double, actually. Sorry,
I'm
not
sure a
more.
lot of it is like outrage. And by the way, I have to give props to the community. Like Warcraft 3 refunded, Warcraft 3 deforged. Like those people were quick. Like those people
Yeah, man.
were
I even in
it's
in
crazy.
this outrage culture, there's some form of creativity in art, and
Yeah,
as crazy as it sounds sometimes, I don't want to know how many people are checking out Warcraft Reforged because of this whole drama and fiasco that otherwise would have
right.
never looked into the game.
I mean, it's like on Twitter. You see someone says something stupid on Twitter or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden, they have 10 million impressions now, and they're getting like thousands of new followers. Well, it's
Yeah.
just like if you don't give attention to like the bad things, no one's gonna care. But because you're just dumping so much energy to making sure everyone knows how bad it is, like people are gonna be like, "Wait, is it really that bad? Maybe I should get it and check it out."
And you know what? I
And
think
I think that's where we are.
if I was a higher up at Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, I would just treat the whole situation with exactly that kind of
Mhm.
fatalistic humor, where you're like, okay, man, we know we messed it up, but here's a patch anyways for those that still want it, and maybe if they're smart about it, they're gonna have a comic at some point or some other
Right.
funny anecdote. Because I think the worst situation or the worst thing they could do right now is to be like drop dead serious about it and
Right.
just try to make a really bad situation even worse with it. So
Yeah. This is gonna be another, doesn't everybody have phones kind of
I
scenario.
hope
Like we're
so.
gonna get
Yeah.
like a haha, and then okay. So I guess with that said, um, is that just like your overall hope that you have for Reforged? Is your hoping Blizzard will come out and just kind of have fun with it, and maybe we'll get some patches with the game that'll
Yeah.
kind of improve, quality of life? Is that just what the direction you're hoping for right now?
I hope so, man. I hope that I think it's only logical and natural what they're doing right now is to remain silent, because no matter what they did immediately now, no matter what they
Yeah.
said, if it's a public statement, a public apology, whatever, a video even, it would only be made fun of, and they would
Right.
fuel the fire even more with that. So I hope that maybe in a week or two from now, we're gonna have that massive patch that just delivers a bunch of super important things like adding missing animations, fixing bugs, adding multiplayer features that were needed, and then step by step reforge the game as it was meant to be
Yeah.
reforged at the beginning. That's
It's
what I
it's,
hope,
it's going to
man.
be a very crazy. Yeah, I think these next few months, I think are going to be very
Yeah.
telling for does Blizzard really care? Like,
Hmm.
are they going to care to fix the game?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, we'll have to. It sucks that we're all basically in limbo. Like we're playing the waiting game of, like Do they give a shit or not? Like,
Yeah.
I guess we'll find out.
And let's not forget about the big disaster that could also happen. I mean, Blizzard could at this point, if once again this stupid external source continues to have, power over every decision made in that direction, maybe we could have the same forces that caused all this mess with Reforged in the first place be then like, well, let's just burn all the bridges and just forget about Warcraft 3 and pretend it never existed.
Right.
That is
And
a possibility,
that's a worst case scenario too.
That's
It's like
the
that
worst
burns
case
such a
scenario, but a
huge-
possible one still, yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, and that's the scary thing. I think
That's the
is
scary
like,
one, yeah.
is that's not completely out of mind. Like,
And
I
then
mean,
Classic isn't
we
even
saw it
back,
with
Then you have nothing.
yeah, right. It's crazy how they sort of lost hold of so many. Like you said, Blizzard controlled the MMO market. They
Mhm.
controlled, the RTS market. It's everything. Action RPG with Diablo, and they've slowly been losing their grip on everything.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to see. It's crazy to have been a part of a Blizzard community for so long. I think I was like, I know, yeah, Warcraft 3 came out and I was like 12, I think.
Yeah.
Even before that, I was playing like, earlier Diablos, Warcraft 2, Orcs and Humans even.
Mhm.
And to be a part like from the very beginning to now, like it almost hurts. Like it's like, yo, it's like Blizzard, like what are you doing? Like you're so much better than this. Like I know you can be better. Like just believe in yourself, believe in the way. Like I
Mhm.
believe in you. So, but no, yeah, I think before the end of this year, we're gonna see some pretty, I think, sweeping changes. I feel just at Blizzard and just with their
Yeah.
whole general mindset because they can't keep going the way they're going.
Yeah.
If
I
they
think we're
do,
gonna have like
it's
a
just a
next big release, which is Shadowlands for World of Warcraft. I think
right.
that's going to be the first stepping stone, and then the very big one with Diablo 4. Whenever that may came out, I really hope they're not going to give us any release dates. I hope they're
Yeah,
going to
just
make the
whenever it's
game
ready.
perfect, take their time. This should be their top priority title right now. And I think at that point we're going to see if they can ever recover, if they can sort of have that rebirth, if they come back like Phoenix from the ashes,
Mhm.
or if they're just going to be forgotten until the end of time.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's going to be a very interesting time. And I think just as a spectator, even if you don't play the games, just as a spectator watching the company and
Yeah.
and just how they are going to be going through the motions, it's going to be very telling.
And
So I mean, we'll have to wait and
even
see.
as that's probably the final thing that I'll say on this thing. Like even as a
Mhm.
Blizzard hater or as someone who's super disappointed or just doesn't like the company anymore, like even in those people's interest, it can't really be. They don't want Blizzard to disappear. They
Right.
don't want it to just go away out of existence because
Right.
they
Like, that
still
hurts so much of like the gaming
having a
community in
global
general.
player just leave the business just opens the door to another monopoly in certain genres. I
Right.
think, and honestly, if we can have 3 equally strong major brands in the genres they represent, like Valve, Riot, and Blizzard, for example, that's the healthiest environment one could ever truly find themselves in.
Yeah.
So
They're competitive with one another. Like,
yeah,
hopefully, they're making each
yeah,
other
man,
just better overall. Yeah, there's just like if Blizzard exits the game, it's bad. It's going to be very bad for just the quality of games to come. I
yep.
think. But yeah, no,
Let's hope
we'll
for the
have to
best, man.
see. Exactly. Yeah, it's just going to be a very patient waiting game
Yeah, man.
that unfortunately we kind of have to sit here and play. But time will tell.
Time will tell.
Okay, so with that, I think we've covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover.
Nice.
I know you and Grubby do Fight Night on, I
Yep.
believe it's Fridays, correct?
Every second Friday, so every 14 days
Yeah,
we
why
do
don't you,
it.
why don't you tell us a little bit about, just what it is, where we can find it, all that jazz.
Yeah, so every 14 days, Grubby and I, we present the Fight Night, which is essentially a King of the Hill format, where we have one person defending their title against a bunch of new challengers, or just one challenger if that one takes you down. And every time they get money, the loser also walk away with a little bit of money too, so nobody goes home empty-handed. And it's just really this
Nice.
cool format where you have a storyline at some point. When you have a champion that's been undefeated for several months, you can always, come up with these tales about who's going to dethrone them? Which race are they weak
Yeah.
against? Who's going to come up with a specifically tailored strategy against these people? And it's a unique format, I think, in Warcraft 3 so far.
That's cool. No, that's really cool. I'm very interested. I haven't caught many of the fight nights, but I'm very interested in kind of watching it from here on out. But no, I had a blast talking with you. It was fun. It's kind of
Yo,
a
man, thanks for doing this,
good time.
Beckwin.
Just yeah, for sure. Maybe in a couple months when we see some changes for Reforged, we can kind of do a follow
Yeah,
up
let's do a catch
and,
up
and
then.
and see what happens.
Yeah.
But no, it was a blast. Thank you, and I appreciate everyone that tuned in. I'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.